Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Cryptids and Monsters video. Alright, let's go ahead and let's do another one here based on one of your newer entries. This will be number 7 in this latest series of videos, so I'll probably end up doing about 3 more after this, make it an even 10. So thank you so much for your suggestions. By the way, a quick note, a lot of you have suggested ones that I've already finished. So the good news on that part, if you're interested in your suggestion, type it in under the search bar there on my channel, and there's a good chance that you'll find it there. So good news on that, you'll be able to see essentially the video that I created for it. But please keep continuing with those suggestions. I'll do a couple of more here. This one has to do with a creature that when I was looking at the information on it, I had a lot of trepidation for it. Like there's a lot of troublesome big plot holes associated with it. Stuff that makes me truly wonder if it's a cryptid or more along the lines of a tall tale, something that just gathered steam across the several decades, but nothing really in terms of its existence, more along the lines of just people telling one exaggerated tale after another. But let me know what you think. As always, with regards to my videos, it's up to you to decide, but I think there's a good chance that you'll see where I'm coming from here after I finish explaining the information. And it has to do with this. You're looking at it now. Very interesting looking creature. It's known as the Arkansas Gowrow. So let's go ahead and let's talk about all the information associated with this very unique creature. So what is this Arkansas Gowrow? Well, hence its name, it's a creature that's been reported there in Arkansas for a good amount of time. In fact, if you go by the earliest source, it's going to be about at the early 1880s to be specific. So a good amount of time with regards to this creature. And as far as its location, there's a couple of spots that I'll talk about here in a minute. You know how I love it whenever there's a very, very specific spot that you can find cryptids. There's going to be some in this case here. But as far as its characteristics, let's talk about that first. Basically, it looks like a very large lizard, almost like a dragon, if you will, if you subtracted the giant wings, because it has a lot of characteristics just like the fabled creatures. Its size is pretty big. It's been estimated to be about 20 feet in length in total, although it's hard to state because of the conditions that people find this creature. It's definitely something that you don't want to be near, and I'll talk about that more in a minute. But it has a huge length, 20 feet, 2 tusks that are normally in front of its mouth, although other iterations don't seem to have those tusks in there too. It has these large web feet with these giant claws on them that it clearly uses for hunting purposes. And then on its back, it has these short horns that adorn the entire backside. Probably the most interesting part though about this cryptid happens to be its tail. On the end of it, there's this giant blade, not like a real blade, but at least its tail is made in the shape of a sharp blade. So it definitely can use this as a deadly weapon. Imagine something like this whipping back and forth. At the right angle, this thing can seriously do some harm. And then also with regards to its characteristics, it makes this noise. This noise has been described as some kind of nocturnal depredation. So not exactly sure what that means, but if you happen to hear a distinct sound coming from, let's say, some area there in Arkansas, then you have a good chance of coming across this Gowrow. Another indication too happens to be if you find a nest of its eggs. These eggs are not tiny. They're soft-shelled, but they're about the size of a beer keg, so very large eggs, which denotes again the size of the creature altogether. And then also one last thing about its characteristics, this is not a friendly creature. You do not want to come across it, even if you're doing so willingly. That's because this creature has been known to not only slaughter livestock and pets near other areas there in Arkansas, but people too. In fact, part of the tales that I'll talk about here in a minute have to do with the fact that there are people that have disappeared, human remains that have been found near this creature. So it definitely eats people and it hunts them as well. So no doubt all those characteristics, all those tusks, the claws, the tail with the blade on it, it can use all of this to its advantage when it's hunting creatures. Now, as far as those encounters and the things that made things, a little troublesome for me, has to do with this. So if you go back to the early 1880s, again, the earliest known indications of this creature, apparently it was found there in Arkansas, and it was pitched around by somebody, I guess, I don't know if you could call it like a circus owner, but somebody that was supposedly had a captured Gowrow to showcase to an audience. Like, this was the earliest known encounter. And in fact, this was at a place called Mina there in Polk County. And the way the story goes was this so-called captor of the Gowrow would show it to anybody as long as they paid a quarter up front. So, as of course, traveling from city to city, people would pay the quarter. They would wait in front of, let's say, some large curtain where whatever and behind that house this fearsome Gowrow, this owner, this captor, would then tell the audience that he'll bring the Gowrow out, and then he would disappear behind the curtain. Once he did so, though, people would state that they would hear commotion happening behind it, like they would hear chains rattle, they would hear stomping, like very large stomping of some sort, and then finally they would hear gunshots or shotguns going off within the compound. Then, at much to everyone's surprise, this captor would come out, running out into the audience, but now his clothes would be completely torn apart. I don't know though if he had any like significant cuts, like quote unquote cuts to him, but either way, it was not what his clothes were a minute ago. And he would come out screaming, saying that the Gowrow had escaped. And then right at that point, then the entire area behind the curtain would crash down. Like something would cause it to crash down, almost as if this Gowrow is right about to run out into the crowd. And then people would run from it, like thereafter, like they would actually run from that location. And then they would never get to see the Gowrow in person. So doesn't that raise a lot of red flags? Clearly, obviously, with something like this. So the idea that you have this captor that would showcase audiences all this stuff for a quarter, of course, and then not to produce it afterward, that was essentially one of the earliest tales of this Gowrow. But flash forward to a little bit more, in this case 1897, and here's another troublesome tale tied to it. So it has to do with a guy by the name of William Miller, who was a businessman there from Little Rock, Arkansas. He told a story to somebody named, a writer by the name of Albert Smithy. He wrote for the Arkansas Gazette, and it was published there on January 31st, 1897. This guy, William Miller, told the writer that he actually hunted down this Gowrow, and he was able, with his group, to kill it. Like, he was actually able to go to the lair tied to this creature. This lair apparently is known as the Devil's Hole. They're located in Boone County. Remember I was mentioning earlier how there's very specific spots for this Gowrow. Well, if you go there to the Devil's Hole, then you'll come across this creature. So the way the story goes, this thing, whatever it was slaughtering livestock there in that county, and apparently pets, and then also it was people were disappearing. So it was presumed that this creature was also slaughtering people there as well. So finally, Mr. Miller and then another posse that he formed, they all got together because they wanted to take care of this creature. So they went to his cave, which, based on several tales that I saw, either A, it's there at the Devil's Hole, or B, it's at another part of that same area. But either way, though, they went into the cave, and once they was there, they found the creature, like they saw it there, along with the skeletons of animals, along with the human remains, and they caused it to come out. And then when that happened, this creature came out with a huge rumble. Again, this is him explaining the entire story to that writer, Albert Smithy. This creature came out and it started to tear up several trees, and it also tore off one of the legs from one of the posse there. Either way, though, this posse was able to take all this stuff that they had with them, giant rocks, guns, knives, whatever they had with them, they all charged, and they were all able to finally kill this creature. That's where they were able to describe, at least he was, to the writer, the physical descriptions of this creature. And when the writer naturally asked, well, where's the body now? Like, exactly, like, where is it? That way we can take pictures. That way we can showcase to everybody this fantastic creature. He said that he mailed it or sent it off to the Smithsonian Institute, but quite conveniently, it never arrived there. Somebody, he stated, must have gotten it, and when that happened, it just stayed with that person, never arrived at its destination, and who knows where it's at to this day. Again, lots of troublesome information, no, with regards to this story, because all it is someone telling a story, and when it comes time to showcase the evidence, it just magically doesn't happen to be there. Finally, another story that was interesting, but also I had trouble with it, has to do with this. Going back to that Devil's Hole, there was someone there, a spelunker, who stated that they were trying to find out the depths of this hole, like how far the hole went. They tried to go down in person on a rope, but it was too deep. There was no chance of being able to reach the bottom. So instead, they created a very large line, like some kind of rope, with a rock on it, and then they were out trying to go as far as it could, like try to see and measure it. But each time they did so, there was something that shook the line, and almost like it was torn off. And when they pulled up the line, it was indicating, there was stuff indicating there that it was clearly bitten through. They did this 3 times, in fact, 3 subsequent attempts, and each time that happened, something bit through the chain or the rope itself. So here in this case, they thought to themselves, this must be the Gowrow. Here it was, still alive, or some other species of the Gowrow, but in this case, still within the Devil's Hole itself. But again, troublesome information there, because no proof was related to the ropes, no proof obviously within the hole itself, so who knows exactly what happened there. But in any case, that's all the info really with regards to the Arkansas Gowrow. Nothing, unfortunately, more to today's time period. Everything seems to be just within that time period too. But if there truly is one out there in Arkansas, and you happen to go by that location there in Devil's Hole, or if you happen to go to Polk County, as I mentioned earlier, and various other parts there in Arkansas, then who knows, you may have a chance of coming across this creature. But if anybody knows anything more recent, anything else I might have missed, please post those comments below. If you think it's more on the lines of a tall tale, just something that people have showcased with exaggerated claims, but not necessarily any proof to back it up. If you feel that's more along the lines, it'd be great to hear your side of things. Or if you truly believe it's a real cryptid, please post them below. I know that at the end of the day, a lot of the cryptids I talk about that you are fans of, that I'm fans of, and then all the other stuff that I read, a lot of it can be thrown out as let's say tall tales. But in some cases, the stuff is just more harder to believe. This is one of those cases that I think here too. So, but in any case, as always, I just present this information for you to decide. So, all right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.